charge right. Come on and get your game on.
Hello everyone, my name is TheSliferSlacker, and I'm coming to you guys today with a really cool discovery I just made. So I was live tweeting a reread of the GX manga on my Twitter. You can follow my Twitter at _SliferSlacker_. In it, I found an opening section of one of the manga where Kazuki Takahashi addresses the reader at the start and mentions that on the Studio Dice website, and remember this was published circa 2009 or so, that the Studio Dice homepage has sketches done by him. That got me extremely curious because I've seen a lot of his concept sketches in the Dual Art book, which I own, and a lot of his concept art has mostly been seen by the public through that book. However, when I went to look at the Wayback Machine, because the Studio Dice website has been down since around 2011, it's been completely frozen up and inaccessible. The Wayback Machine still had a version of the old website up in a snapshot, and that old version of the website ran on Flash. So I ran Flash, and I was incredibly surprised to find that the sketch page is still functional through the Wayback Machine. Anyone who's used the Wayback Machine knows it's pretty much a crapshoot if you can actually get any old pages to work or not. And through it, I discovered something that I don't think many people have ever seen, and that is the GX concept art drawn by Kazuki Takahashi himself. The real original sketches and concept work done by Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Himself, for the GX anime. And on top of that, he had concept sketches for his redraws of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga re-releases for the tankobons in Japan. A lot of the artwork for that was featured in Dual Art. A lot of concepts art from 5Ds, which did make it into Dual Art. Dual Art had a lot of 5Ds concept art, but even this had concept art that even that didn't have. But the only piece of GX concept art from Dual Art is one of Elemental Hero Neos. This has that and more. This has almost like 10 pages or so of concept art. So I want to go through and show these to you guys because these are essentially lost media. It doesn't look fantastic, but we're talking about a 10-year-old website archived in the Wayback Machine that ran with Flash. So here is the concept art, and the first piece that we're looking at here is design work for Jaden and Chaz, or Judai and Manjome. We can see an early take on Jaden, clearly in Kazuki Takahashi's art style. A bit rough around the edges, obviously. And you can see, of course, Jaden here doing some poses. You see some rough versions of the dual disc that aren't really fully formed yet. Nothing too special, but considering how rare it is to see Takahashi draw Jaden, this is a treat for me, because the man almost never draws Jaden. He loves to draw Yusei, but you don't get a lot of him drawing Jaden. So that's pretty cool. And of course, on the other side, we have Chaz, and his hair looks a little different. It's a little bit more lumpy. It doesn't stick up as much as it used to. It's a little bit more reminiscent of Kaiba, I think. And in addition, you see that the Obelisk Blue uniform has a bunch of stars on the lapel. And I find that interesting. If you remember the episodes where Zane goes to be a pro duelist, he replaces the button on his lapel with a star, reminiscent of a star chip. And that's interesting that maybe that was taken from the concept art, because that obviously doesn't appear in the final version, but I think that's pretty interesting. And next we have more concept art of Chaz looking extremely lumpy. And we have a cut-off image of what appears to be someone called Apex. Again, maybe a bit of a proto-name for Chaz, I don't know. You see a drawing of him next to what appears to be Kaiba, clearly taking some influence from Kaiba. This, I'm assuming, is an early version of Chaz's design, before he really got the whole look down. He's got what looks to be medals attached to his collar, which is weird. And again, his hair is way more lumpy, and it looks something more akin to Joey than anything else. So that's weird. Seeing the contrast next to Kaiba, it's clear they did start from a very Kaiba-like place with Chaz and kind of extrapolated into somewhere new entirely. I'm curious as to what they're saying. Obviously, I don't speak Japanese, and I can't really say for what the dialogue there is supposed to be. If anyone speaks Japanese or can read that and wants to translate it, you can leave a comment. I'll probably pin it. I think that's pretty interesting. Seeing that early look at Chaz is definitely very different. Next up, we have an early look at Zane, who looks pretty much the same. Maybe his hair is a little bit unpolished. He's not quite gotten there yet, but it's mostly just Zane. Not really anything too different to talk about there, but it's still kind of cool seeing these characters drawn by the man himself. And of course, now we have Bastion, who's looking very rough. That top right drawing in particular looks a little iffy. These are clearly very rough sketches, but you still get that basic idea and that basic shape of Bastion. It seems like he wasn't changed too much. I'm sure there are many more concept sketches that didn't get put in here, but it is cool seeing, again, early rust of these characters. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Again, this drawing of Bastion seems quite unpolished, but hey, it's concept art, so whatever. For something a little bit more polished, we have Crowler here, who's actually looking a little bit more reminiscent of Takahashi's modern style with a bit more of detail in the face. I think that's pretty cool. A lot of his post-90s artwork, post-original Yu-Gi-Oh! Artwork, took on a much more detailed quality, especially in the faces. If you look at a lot of his recent artwork of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters, there's a lot more going into how he draws the faces. And I think it's really cool here that you kind of see the start of that in Crowler here, and you get to see the wide variety of expressions and just the dynamic kind of design work and just shape of the face that Takahashi loves to do. If there's one thing Takahashi seems to love to do with his character designs, it's that he likes to make them look as wild and distinct as possible. He really loves to go outside the box. He seems to really love characters like Crowler that have these really unique, dynamic, and just more complicated designs. He really seems to love drawing stuff like that. So it's really cool seeing kind of that start of his modern art style here with Crowler. And of course, here's some rough art of Chumley, or Hayato. It's interesting. It's very rough, obviously, much like the Bastion. It seems that, again, you still see the little star on the lapel. That makes me think that that was probably in there for a while before the final product came out. Obviously, again, here with Chumley, it's very rough. It doesn't look like Chumley changed too much between concept and final. Obviously, the little puffs on his hair that meant to look like koala ears definitely got bigger for the final anime. But this is pretty cool. I like seeing that stuff for Chumley. Chumley doesn't get a lot of love, so it's cool to see that he's, even get featured here at all. Here's some design work for Alexis, and, looking, again, pretty standard, but what's interesting here, I find, is that you again have the stars on the lapel, but they're sort of shifted over her shoulder, almost like a sash of some kind. And again, there you can also see an early version of the dual disc that looks a bit strange and different. But overall, it seems like Alexis didn't change too much from concept to final. It seems her hair shape is mostly there. It doesn't really seem all too different from the final design, except for, of course, that little sashy thing on her arm. So that's pretty interesting. Again, I guess they were really trying to go with this whole idea of the Duel Academy students had stars, I guess maybe to indicate their rank other than color. Maybe the color thing wasn't even originally there, I don't know, but that's an interesting holdover, I think. I think that's worth speculating on. And of course we have Aster Phoenix here, who's looking a lot older than he does in the show. Honestly, if I were to draw a comparison, his facial structure reminds me a lot of Pegasus here. He just looks a lot older and more mature. I don't know if that was an intentional choice by Takahashi, but it's interesting to see that because Aster kind of has a more youthful energy, especially in the sub version. So I can't tell if this is just the rough of the line work or Aster was meant to be maybe a bit older than the other characters, but he's definitely got a more serious vibe to him. Again, maybe the silver hair kind of is meant to invoke a Pegasus-y kind of vibe. Maybe again, he's trying to be like a little Kaiba-ish too, with just like how sort of dapper and straight-laced he looked. I don't know. It's kind of cool to see Aster, though. I didn't think Aster concept art would even be in here when I discovered it, but hey, I'm always happy to see Aster. Aster is one of my favorite characters, so that's pretty cool, too. And here's a surprise. Here's concept art for Bonaparte, of all characters. Again, doesn't look too unchanged. I can't really notify anything that looks super different here. Obviously, this was concept art for Season 2, so he doesn't have any of those weird holdovers like the stars on the lapel or anything like that. This was clearly made probably sometime in the middle of the production of the first season, probably after it started airing in Japan even. So that's pretty interesting. I never thought I would ever see concept art for Bonaparte of all people, but hey, again, this is pretty cool. And here we have some really modern Takahashi-isms in the art here with this Sartorius artwork, or Sayo in the sub, of course. He is looking very sinister. The pencil work is very reminiscent of his more recent work post Duel Monsters. Just the sinister, creepy vibes he's pulling off is incredible. Honestly, like, this looks super cool. Like, he looks so much more intimidating with Takahashi's line work. Takahashi is honestly such an underrated artist, and you can really tell with pieces like this that he's just got such a talent that it's such a shame he stopped drawing manga regularly. It almost makes me wish he would continue drawing some Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga or do his own spin-off, because his character work, the lines, is so strong, and he just has this great sense of design and like line work and all this stuff. He nails this stuff so well. I love how creepy this Sartorius looks and how unhinged he is. And speaking of Sartorius here, we have what appears to be concept art for the Duel Monsters vs. GX crossover movie that Takahashi proposed, that was later adapted into Season 2 of GX with the whole plot with Sartorius and all that. I'm saying that because there appears to be Yugi in the background, which I know he was going to be a character in that movie, so that's really interesting. That this must have been some early pitch idea for that. You have a bit of a proto-Cyrus going on right there, and of course right next to him you see more concept art of Cyrus. His hair looks a little bit more wild and spiky than he did in the final. And under Takahashi's pen, he really gives me a bit of a Little Yugi vibe. And I think that's really interesting. They're both kind of meant to be these meek characters, so I think that's pretty cool. You can kind of see that influence in there, especially with the eyes. It really sells that with Takahashi's art style. So yeah, that's cool though. I never knew there was concept art for that movie, because that movie is something that I think Yu-Gi-Oh fans have known about for a long time. I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything did a video on it years ago, but it's just been one of those things that's been sort of passed around over the years. So to see that there's actually concept art for that is really cool. I really like that. Like, that's pretty interesting. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's really, really shocking. Like, I think that's really awesome. I wish there was more of this stuff. And next up is going to be my personal favorite section of this, which is the concept art for the original Elemental Heroes. Now, this concept art of Neos, I believe, is in Dual Art, or at least a similar piece of concept art. And that's really cool alone, but I've seen concept art of Neos before, but what I haven't seen is this one of Sparkman. Now, Sparkman is one of my personal favorite cards. I love Sparkman. He's my favorite of the classic heroes. So seeing the design work behind the classic heroes is something I've always wanted. I've always wanted to see just how he created them. And I think that is just so awesome to finally see just these early takes on the heroes in Takahashi's art style. So, just Sparkman in particular is such a favorite of mine, so that's awesome. Of course, next we have Burstinatrix here, looking pretty cool. Again, she's got her, like, flame pattern she has in the sub that got censored. That's pretty awesome. You have this awesome looking sketch of Bubble Man looking smug with his weirdly proportioned boots. Looking very Batman with that covered in mask there. Again, that's pretty awesome. Like, these are clearly just super rough ideas, but as you probably know, Takahashi based these on American superheroes, so you also kind of see that with Burstinatrix's really hyper-detailed face there. That's pretty awesome. That's more detailed than I think the heroes ever got in the anime. You have a lot of sketches of Wildheart here, looking very intense, very Tarzan-like. Takahashi clearly had fun designing this one. Pretty damn cool, actually. He really seemed to draw a lot of Wildheart. That's pretty awesome. Like, very cool sketch work, very just dynamic posing. That's pretty cool. And of course, we have Avion here looking pretty dapper, but a little bit hard to make out with the sketch lines. And of course, good old Flame Wingman. Look at that. That might be the earliest drawing of Flame Wingman that we know of. That's pretty awesome. Flame Wingman is such an iconic monster. And to see an early design concept for him is pretty great. He seems to be a little bit thinner. His dragon arm's a bit smaller. He's a little bit scrawnier too. Sort of same thing with Avion there. His wingspan isn't as great. It's just a little bit smaller. But I really like that. That's really awesome. Just seeing the elemental heroes in a prototype form is great. I love it. And that is all I'm going to be sharing today. Now, of course, there is 5Ds and Dual Monsters concept art too. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to share those in the description. I'm going to put them in a zipped file, and you can download the PNGs of all of these images for yourself. Do whatever you like with them. Put them on the wiki. Share them with your friends. But yeah, I just really wanted to share this with you guys because this discovery was so cool. I really just couldn't hold in my excitement looking at these and just looking at this early take on my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh series. Again, I'll put all of these images, plus the 5Ds ones and the Dual Monsters ones, in the description for download so you can get them for yourself and save them and archive them, because honestly, when Flash goes down, these would probably be completely inaccessible. So the fact that I found them in time, stroke of luck. Complete stroke of luck. So that's it, guys. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, follow me on Twitter if you want, @_SliferSlacker_. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. I don't just tweet about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I do tweet about Yu-Gi-Oh fairly often. It's my personal Twitter, but it also links back from there. So you can join the Slifer server in the description if you want. I don't really use it too often, but you can do that. And also, of course, you can like and subscribe, leave a comment. I upload videos whenever the hell I feel like it. So if you liked this, yeah, maybe consider checking out my other videos. And if you like hero stuff and GX, consider giving my Start to Finish series a look, where I go over almost every single hero card, minus Neos, in a very Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh-esque fashion. So, with that in mind, you guys, have a great day, and even better tomorrow, and always remember to get your game on! See ya!